Chapter 57, The High Dive, Part 2. The next Tuesday, like always, I spent wandering around the zoo. I visited the gorillas, Ruth the elephant, the zebras and flamingos, and finally, when I was tired of walking, I stopped by the lions. There, on our bench, sat a tall girl with black hair and skin the same color as mine. She was clutching an old black feather in her hands. "Hi," I breathed. Nothing else would come out. "I'm sorry I couldn't come sooner," Liz said. "It took me this long to convince my mother to let me." I shook my head. "It doesn't matter." She was here now. I showed her my notebook. I wanted her to know about the turtles and the crawdads and the quiet lessons. And after all, my mother read it. She said I could come see you one last time. I didn't know what to say. "She's actually just over there, waiting by the monkeys," said Liz. I glanced up and caught a glimpse of Miss Fullerton. She was watching us, and if she wasn't smiling, she wasn't frowning either. I thought of how scared she must have been this past year, and suddenly I no longer blamed her for keeping us apart. I waved, and after a moment, she nodded in return. "So," said Liz, "the school's reopened." "Yes, integrated. Even if it's just a token number of Negroes, it's integrated," I finished. "Yeah," said Liz. There was a long pause. Finally, I sat down on the bench next to her. "How's Curtis?" I asked. "Fine," Liz said, and blushed, which told me everything I wanted to know. "How's little Jimmy?" "I like him a lot," I said, "though I think just as a friend. Anyway, you were right. I did need other friends, even if they aren't friends as good as you." "Are we still friends?" asked Liz. "Of course," I said. "We'll always be friends." "Even if we don't ever get to see each other?" said Liz. "I thought about that a lot," I said, "and I think a friend is someone who helps you change for the better. And whether you see them once a day or once a year, if it's a true friend, it doesn't matter." "You're pretty good at saying what you think now." "I learned from the best." Liz smiled. "Remember when we saw The Wizard of Oz at the gym?" "Of course I remember," I said. "It was the first movie we saw together." "It was the only movie we ever saw together," Liz said. "There'll be others. Someday," said Liz. "Things will be different," I agreed. "Somewhere," said Liz, "over the rainbow." She stood up. "Until then, call me." And then she was gone. On the seat where she'd been sitting was another 3x3 magic square. The first two and last two digits were the year, 1959. And the other 5 numbers, well, they were her new phone number. As soon as I got to the pool that afternoon, I knew what I had to do. I didn't say a word to anyone, just put my towel down next to Judy and waved to little Jimmy and walked over to the 5-meter platform dive and started to climb. It was a beautiful, clear day, and when I got to the top, the wind danced the ends of my hair so it tickled my back. I walked to the edge of the platform and looked down. It still made me dizzy. Everything was the same, and yet not the same. I looked up. A plane flew overhead and my eyes cleared. I imagined Liz and Curtis and Betty Jean at the pool, swimming with Nora and little Jimmy and Mother and me, somewhere over the rainbow. And so I jumped. I wish I could say it was a perfect swan dive. Actually, it was more like a crazed belly flop, and all the air was sucked out of me as I hit the water at a funny angle. I floundered under the water, my skin stinging all over, sure I was drowning. Then I opened my eyes. The water was blue and full of chlorine, and my eyes stung, but I factored the equation and realized I was upside down, and all I had to do was right myself up and swim. Sounds easier than it was, but I clawed my way to the surface, and when I took the first deep breath and saw the clear summer sky, I heard my sister and little Jimmy and Nora and even Sally and JT cheering for me. I swear I heard the lions roar. The end.